thanks for joining us for the ANA eLearning Academy. Today we have Dany Rothfeld doing US error coins, so he's going to present for the next 2 hours. At the end of the presentation, I'm going to launch the survey here in Zoom. Please take a minute to fill it out for us. We can't hear or see you here in Zoom, so please use either the chat feature or the Q&A feature here in Zoom, and I'll read the questions to Dany at the end of the presentation. Again, if you have questions, please use that chat feature, and we will get those answered to you as soon as we can. Enjoy.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you all for attending this presentation. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been actually collecting kind of late, not from like some of you started as children. I actually started when I was in at Michigan State University, probably early 20s. I'm originally from Israel. I came over here and stayed, so that's almost 45 years ago, 76. And the way I started collecting, I saw all these interesting new coins to me, and of course my meager budget, I started collecting the cents, as most people did, and you know, merged into other areas. Later on, I worked for a dealer down here in Lansing, Michigan, and that's where I mostly started getting into basically everything. It's like a kid in a candy store, you know. Anyway, so this error coin presentation is based on coins from my own collection. And I collect a lot of other coins and paper monies and everything in other categories. But again, I started collecting the error coins when I first saw them, and they were very interesting to me. So in the summer of 2004, I went to the ANA seminar and took the course. It's ran by Rick Schemmer and Bill Fiva, and each one of us got a book that was written by Arnold Margolis and Fred Weinberg, which they were kind enough to donate it to every student in the class. And I still have this nice book, and it was autographed by the two, Schemmer and Fiva. The pictures in this presentation mostly are taken from the US Mint website, which they say it's okay to use, and from the book with permission. So let's start with my presentation. Okay. We're going to discuss a little bit the process, how the US Mint is striking coins. So these days, the Mint is using the Schuler presses to strike the coins, and they have two kinds. If they do the circulation coins, they strike them horizontally, and if they do numismatic coins, it goes vertically, probably a little slower maybe, but on the average it goes 350 strikes per minute. Cannot really think about it, that's so fast. Anyway, the only top die moves, the bottom die is stationary. When the finished coins are done, they're being stored now in bags that are big bags that are housing up to 400,000 coins each. It's called a ballistic bag. Okay, here is how the striking coins are being made here. This is a picture. You can see the top die. It's called the hammer die. The bottom one is the anvil die, and it is stationary. In between, you can see something that's called the collar. It's something that is a little springy, and it does move around a little bit. And the planchet, which is the medium or the blank that the design is struck onto goes in the middle, as you can see. This is the big bag that stores 400,000 coins, or cents in this case, and it weighs up to 2,200 pounds. Now let's see if you can steal one of those. It is very heavy, and a robot is being used to lift it up and put it where it needs to go. Okay, we're going now to the process. In the picture, you can see a big roll, looks like copper or something like that, that goes into a machine. So, and this is called a roll. The roll is called a strip, and it is fed in there, and the Schuler has different presses. This is the blanking press. What it does, it has a design that kind of hits the strip and punches out circles. Those are the blanks, and it can make up to 12,000 blanks per minute. A long time ago, the mint used to make the rolls themselves, but nowadays they're importing those rolls. It's a lot easier for them not to do that, and they do it that way. Okay, this is it's an example of a small strip, and it's called webbing strip. You can see that it's basically even. The holes are nicely separated, and that's usually what happens. But sometimes later on we'll see it doesn't always happen that way. By the way, I'm trying to rush a little bit because I think it's a little long, and I don't want to take too much time, so we'll have time for later for the questions and everything else. These are blanks, and not necessarily just blanks, but also planchets of US coinage. Looks like on the left is probably like a, well, I don't know if it's, doesn't look like it's silver. It could be maybe an Ike blank, and then we have the golden dollar. It could be a Sacagawea or the presidential. We have the, let's see, what is that? This is a $50, quarter, dime, nickel, and the cent. Those are the denominations. And you can see, oh, by the way, you can actually look at the left side. This is a blank. See how it's nice and flat? The next one to it has raised edges. This is the planchet when it has those raised edges. Okay, how the process. The blanks are basically, after they're being punched out of those rolls, they are being heated up to about 1500 degrees Fahrenheit, and then they cool down slowly. Later, they are being dipped into a burnishing solution, and then they would go into the upsetting mill, or some people call it upset mill, basically kind of the same. And you can see the upsetting mill down in the picture. And what it does, it presses. It's like two rollers that are pressing into each other, and where the metal does not have anywhere else to go but to the sides, either up or down. And that is the edge that is being created there. And then we call them planchets. And here is the difference. You can see the planchet is on the left, the blank is on the right. The blank is basically a flat disc, and the planchet has raised edges. Okay, here's another picture that you can see the planchets are moving, and they're being fed into the Schuler press to be struck. So that means they already went through the upsetting mill, and you can see that they have little edges up, and now they're being pushed into the press. Okay, here's an interesting machine, and this is a machine that is a part of quality control. It's called the Riddler. It does maybe get rid of Riddler, or it's just shaking them. It weeds out the wrong size planchets and debris. So you can see the holes in there, and the holes will be the size of a smaller hole. So the coin or the blank planchet, whatever, is not going through. The smaller pieces will fall through, and you have sometimes few levels. If it will, if it has specific sizes, then only the specific size of blanks will go through. If it's smaller, then debris will fall through, and then they will move and move and move until they go into the correct area. And this, it's a conveyor basically that excuse me, that has belts underneath, and they just move the product down the road. And these are two different dies. They are defaced. Okay, the die on the left is a $50 size, and the defacing process is they basically ground it completely down, and you have nothing of the design. The one on the right is a defacing of a proof coin, and they seem to put like an X on it, or I've seen some others that are double X's, so it just has 4 lines across, so it's like, you have like 8 little lines on that. And on this one, or in the middle, it's the same die on the left that has its serial number, and it's a part of my one of my error coins exhibits. So it's just to show the example of a die. Oh, by the way, the die has a reverse picture. So when it strikes the planchet, it puts a positive, meaning the actual design, in contrary to the hub, which makes the die. So the hub has the positive picture. When it hits the die, then the negative image is being struck on the die. When the die hits the planchet, again, it changes into a positive picture. Okay, let's start now with the actual coins. You have an example here, and apparently probably is one of the most common, the two most common error coins are the off centers and probably the clipped coins. So we're starting here, and it shows you how to call an off center coin. The one on the left, you can see that has just a tiny little piece that was struck. That means it is called 95% off center. So the part that is struck is the one that you actually, well, the part that is unstruck is the number that you see on because it's off center. The one on the right side, most of the design is on. That means it's only 15% off center. Okay. Now going to the clips. Clips is something that is a little different than the off center because it has different kind of clips. Over here you can see, okay, we're going to see the one on the left. It's a crescent. It's very curved and crescent clip. The one in the middle is more like a straight clip. The one on the side of, on the bottom right, is a ragged clip. And the one on the top actually has multiple clips, if you can see. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, maybe 3 pieces. Okay. Then there is something called the collet system. It was created by Mr. Collet, and what it is, he basically tells you the position of the area described by using the clock position. So, for example, if we say K2, that would be at 2 o'clock. So it starts from the 1 o'clock, which is K1, and going all the way up to the other side of the clock. And you can do the same thing. Well, it looks like it's not clips. These are off centers. So you can do the same thing, and you can see starting with 1, going all the way around to the 12. And this is where you are basically telling the position of what specifically you're showing. And by the way, you can do it anywhere. If you are describing something on a coin, you can always refer into that system, meaning if you see, let's say, a distraction or something, you say, okay, it's 3 o'clock or so, they will look in that area. Okay, going back to the clips. So the holes in the middle are perfect, but look on the top. Okay, you have like circles that have like basically a straight edge at the end, because it went all the way, let's say, to the edge of the strip. Let's imagine this is our strip. So you have all kinds of different ones. You can see the one on the left is a lot deeper than the one on the right, which is almost about 50% of the coin. But also, if you look on the left side, on the bottom one, it's a tiny little area that is the clip that will have a straight clip, but also it will be completely different on that. Let's go look again. You'll see better on this example. Okay, this is it's called an incomplete or overlapping blanks. Okay, so on the top you can see, okay, you could have a complete circle, but then with the area that was cut already, you will have, well, I don't know if I can show, yeah, okay, I don't know if you can see that, but in this area, okay, you will have this as a clip right there, okay. Oops, what did I do? Yeah, move it. Okay, let's go back. Okay. Over here, look at this area, which is almost elliptical. We're gonna discuss this a little later, but just get an idea what happens when, what the heck is going on? Okay, sorry. What happens when something is not going according to the plan? They're not really even, and they're not being cut in the right way. So we'll continue and I'll explain later on. Okay, this one is another strike that looks really strange. You can see it's almost like a football type of thing. If you remember what I showed you before, but this is a little tiny area. This is like this area where intersects two different holes, and when they're not being cut completely, that shape could appear. In this case here, you can see that it's a little, it's a lot bigger than that picture that we showed, but it is like an elliptical. It is like, we call it the football, and it's kind of it was eaten up on each side a little bit because the two blanks intersected in the cutting area. Okay. When we talk about clips, there's something that is called the Lexley effect. And what it is, you can see in this picture. Let's look, and on the left side quarter, you can see on the top, let's say that is 11 o'clock. Let's use the collet system. You can see the clip. And then when you go to 4 or 5 o'clock, you can see something that is not really a clip, but it's almost like a depression. Okay, let's explain that. And this happens, by the way, not at the time of striking, but actually at the time when we make the planchets. So if this blank that goes into the machine to push the edges of the blank up, when you have one side of the clip, then just across from it, there's not the same amount of pressure that goes there. So for some reason, and by the way, it does not happen on all the coins, but on most coins, you would see the clip on one side and the depression on the other side. Again, because it's like physics. If you push something, it pushes you back in the same amount of force. That's in physics. In this case, when you pushed the two rollers, pushed this blank in some area, there was not enough pressure to raise the same edge, so it just had this little depression area. Didn't have the one in the middle. You can see you have the clip, but across from it, just the opposite, where the L, the Liberty, does not have Lexley effect. And on the last one, the one on the right, you have two clips. So it can stuff like this can happen in different ways, but most of the time, to determine if it's a fake or not, you will have to look for the Lexley effect on each coin. Okay, I hope you understood me with my explanation here. Okay, here's another clip, and it's a little different. You could see a clip that actually was not done by the original presses, because remember, the clips always happen at the time of the blanking process. So if something happened and it did not have the complete circle, like maybe it strayed up too much, or maybe it was the end of the strip, etc., then you had a clip. But this is an out of the ordinary clip. It did actually, it's called a strike clip, and it was clipped by the die striking at that time. But it will not happen these days. This is the old style coin press. They used to have 4 different dies at the same time striking the planchets. So again, this one is kind of a double error. You have a clip, and you also have an off-center strike. Okay, these are something different. It's called broad strikes. Remember when we talked about the striking process, we had the top die and the bottom die, and in between you had the collar. The collar is kind of a circle that houses the planchet. Therefore, when the two dies hit, the metal has to go all the way to the edges, and the color stops it from going anywhere, so it comes perfectly circled, perfectly even. In this case, what happened? The planchet was struck out of the color. For some reason, it was not sitting in the color. So it's either a case of multiple striking because it got stuck, and the same one got hit again and again and again. Like in the case of especially the left side, it's a 5-cent thing, and it sits in something that is bigger than $half. So definitely you can see that it was probably struck multiple times, and if it's struck outside of the collar, there's no way that it will have the size of the 5-cent because it just spreads. I mean, it's thinner, of course. The one on the right side is also a cent, and it is really, really big. And by the way, this one here, when I sent it to NGC to be slabbed, they actually bent the coin. I was a little upset at the beginning. I said, "The heck with it," no, because they should have used a little bigger hole, but they tried to fit it in there. But it's still fine. I don't care. Okay, here's some more broad strikes. The one on the left, you can see the odd shape. It's not circled. It was struck outside of the color. And of course, you can see the design, it is a little off also. The one on the right has multiple errors. One, a huge broad strike. The whole thing is broad struck. Also, it is off center. And also it has this piece on top. It's almost, some people call it the mushroom one. You have multiple errors on that one. Kind of neat, really nice and big. Okay, something that is called a partial color. That means the coin or the planchet was partially in the color. So you can see on the one on the left, on the bottom part, you can see the reeds. That was the part that was in the color. Just above it, you can see the area that is probably a little larger, and that was the part that was outside, so it kind of spread to the side. Also, it is a coin that has a clip on it, and what us, the collectors, call this particular one also a railroad wheel edge. So it's all, like if you look at the train, the cars of the train, it has this lip. The part compared to the coin, the part that was in the collar is the one that probably hits the rail, and the one that is above it, the extra one, is on the other side of the rail, and it is the one that kind of guides the wheel so it doesn't fall off the rail. The one on um, the right is the same one, partial color. It is slab, you can see it, but also you can see that it's also a little off design, but it's basically something just like the one on the right, on the left. This is something called an indent. Okay, you can see the coin itself, and right above it, you see something kind of no design on it, but it's a depression. What it is, when this coin was struck, there was another planchet that was actually sitting right in that area. So it's a part of another planchet that was hitting or sitting on the coin. So that area missing is actually the other part of Lincoln Head. It was hitting that that particular little area, so you have it on another coin. So another one, that's how the other coin has that design. Something called lamination. What is lamination? Lamination is a process that happens mostly due to contaminations in the metal under the surface. You can see the one on the left, see those bubbles? And this, I call it pre-lamination because it is still kind of under. It's like bubbles, and I call them gas bubbles, whatever. And I think later on we'll see the actual lamination when this is kind of opens up and you can see the other side on it. What happens sometimes too is that because of improper mix of the metal, the copper nickel does not adhere to the copper core underneath. So you can see in this case just the copper, and it's called missing clad. What happened is the whole top just sheared off because, again, did not have the proper mix, and it just completely fell off. And the other side is probably normal, but this is just that way. I guess we didn't have the other lamination, but imagine that the pieces are basically either missing from the top of the, well, let's go back here. You see where the bubbles are. So instead of the bubbly area, it just basically, you see like small little holes, shallow holes, and that's the lamination. Okay, something is called cud. A cud is when sometimes a piece of the die just breaks off, shears off. And remember, the die is the negative impression. So whatever is a raised area on the die is going to be a shallow area on the coin. In this case, because it's sheared off, so it's not protruding, it's just the opposite. So metal is going to be going up instead of down because there's like almost like to fill the hole, the area that broke off. Something interesting is sometimes you have also something called collar cud. You can see at the very top a little protrusion. What happened in this case? Remember the color that when we strike the coin, sometimes you the color cracks, and again, metal has to flow into the easiest area that it can. So when the color is fine, it goes nowhere. It just presses to the sides, and that's where you get those grooves, the reeds. In this case, it had extra area to move into because of the crack. So you have this little protrusion beside the usual reeds that are on the inside of the collar. Okay, here's another category. It's called double struck coins. It's basically the same coin is being struck 2 times. So it did not exit, or maybe exited partially. First time it did get a perfect strike, and then another time partial on top of it. So you can see what it says on the slab. It's like second struck 40%. So the first one is normal, and the other one struck on top of it 40% off. Something called a saddle strike. Saddle strike occurs, or occurred, let's put it that way, in the older presses. Remember I mentioned the quad presses that the Mint used before the Schuler presses. So this press had 4 different dies that will come down at the same time. So you can strike 4 planchets, 4 different planchets at the same time. What would happen sometimes if a planchet falls kind of in between, it could be hit by the different dies. If you look at the picture, you can see that on the bottom, you can see the partial die strike. But then on the top, like about 10, 11 o'clock, you can see another strike. So that was if let's imagine that you have 4 of them, one on the right top, right bottom, left bottom, left top, you can see that, well, if you can kind of swing it around a little bit, it will be maybe the 2 left ones or whatever. And that what happens is it basically pushes up the planchet, and it's almost like a hump, and it's somebody gave it the cute name saddle strike because it looks like a saddle. Okay, a uniface error. A uniface can happen sometimes if you have 2 planchets stuck together and they move together into the area to be struck. So what happens? One of them will have the obverse design on it, and the other one will have the reverse design on it. And in the middle, nothing, because they were just sitting on 2 blanks or two sides of the planchet that had nothing to do with each other. So when you turn it around, nothing on 2 coins, but one of them is a obverse and one is a reverse. Something called mated pairs. Okay, if you remember that we talked about this other coin that had a little depression, like the one on the right side, and I told you that there was another coin that was sitting on top of it and was struck. So each one of those by themselves is fairly common. But if you find 2 coins just like these that are perfectly matching, meaning the left one was sitting on the right one, and that area that you see, the extra part that was struck, that was exactly fit in that depression on the right side. So by finding those 2 coins together, it's a lot rarer, or very rare actually, you can say, to find those 2 together. So in this case, both of them command quite a bit of money together. Okay, this is an interesting error. You have 2 different ones, one on the left, which is an extreme, and one on the right that is, just average. What happens in this case is that, again, you have the top die that goes up and down, and sometimes what would happen, instead of the finished coin exiting after being struck, something happens and it actually gets stuck to the top die. So there it keeps getting hammered and hammered and hammered. All depends how many times. The planchet becomes the die itself. So it's going to have a very nice, strong, let's see, the top part that is stuck to the die. Well, in this case, looks like it probably got stuck to the bottom, because this is the bottom part of the design, which was the reverse. So it actually becomes just like a small cup, but a cap. But in the left side, that's an extreme. Actually, these are two different coins that were stuck together, and they became the die. And you can see how many times it was hit, and hit. It really, really raised the sides. It's very, very tall. So that is a very, it's a rare occurrence to find one of those in bags or to leave the mint, because those guys are not supposed to leave the mint. But of course, we know that they are, and this is, for us, it's great because then we can collect those. Something called brokerage. Okay, a coin is struck and gets stuck to the die, just as we were talking about it. That coin, or that whatever was stuck, the coin that was stuck, becomes the die. The struck reverse, in this case, strikes the next and the next and the next, depends how many planchets before it dislodges itself. So you can see this is a mirror image of the design of the original coin that was struck. Well, actually, you can see two of them. You can see the "We Trust" on the top, but then you have the bottom part that got the negative impression. Okay, if we have a brokerage, then we have a counter brokerage too. So what happens here? You can see that the image is really enlarged, and well, it's kind of hard to see, but it is flat. So what happens here is the capped coin stuck to the die hits another struck coin instead of a planchet. Now, the struck coin assumes that impression, and the incused image is transferred to the next planchet. So it is a positive picture now, but it's flat and it's kind of spread to the side. So a lot of the times you see the Lincoln head is really, really, really big. Okay. Something called double dies. Double dies is actually more like a variety. And double dies does not mean that the coin was struck twice, but actually it happened when the die was made, it was hit twice or three times or whatever, whatever picture you have. So this is the famous 1955 on the left. You can see that it's really, really, you can see it without magnification. The also famous 1972, you can see the "In God is We Trust" is doubled, and the 72. Also 95 is not as big or as glamorous as these two, but it still has some doubling. But again, it is at the time of the die making, not at the strike of the coins. Okay, there's something very controversial. A lot of people, well, you might say beginners, they see something double, say, oh, this is doubling, this is doubling. Well, here's the two different examples that you can see which is and which is not. Let's look first on the right side. The doubling is, you can see it's almost like a step or a shelf or a very nice flat down below. The one on the left, you can see the doubling is actually on top of the letter. Okay, so the right one, or the good one, is the one on the left. The one on the right side has lots of names. You can call it machine doubling, strike doubling, shift doubling, ejection doubling, die bounce. And it basically happens when you have something loose in the coining press, in the dies or other parts are moving, whatever, and it can create these kind of things. But again, the one on the right is basically, if you can say, worthless compared to the one on the left, which is the good one. Okay, something called struck through. There's a few examples over here. The one on the left, you can see that you can hardly see some areas on the design, and that's due to struck through grease. The mint sometimes put some grease on the die to protect it from I don't know, from maybe becoming rusty or whatever. And sometimes they don't clean it well or forget to do this or that. That is an example how the coins will come after the die hits it. The one in the middle is something interesting. It's also one that I recently acquired from another collector and is in my exhibit showing it. You can see that it probably, what happened there is a part of the edge maybe broke off and it was rolled onto that, and it was hit and hit. Maybe it was stuck to, possibly stuck to the top or the bottom die. It's probably some strip or something that fell and laid on the bottom die. And anytime you had a coin or actually a planchet falling in there, this would be the impression. Probably not too many times because it probably got flattened and maybe it was actually stuck maybe to one of the coins and got ejected. The one on the left is very interesting. It has an area that's kind of missing, or the finish is not the same. This one I think is due to, again, the mint would wrap the dies of the silver eagles in saran wrap. Sometimes they did not remove everything, so this looks like a small piece of saran wrap that was still stuck there, and just changed the appearance of the surface. So dies can strike through a lot of crazy stuff like wire brushes, pieces, cloth, staples, screws, washers, and sometimes even broken pieces of die, and a lot more that I didn't even mention here. Okay, something interesting that can resemble one of the previous error. I'll do it real quick and show you. Oh, right, the one on the left side, the one struck through grease. You can see it kind of looks alike. Let's go back to here. Okay, it's a shallow strike, and you don't see really the whole coin, but it's a little different. The little experience, you will know the differences. Basically, it happens when you start a run of coins, because sometimes you have to adjust the height of the dies when it comes down and hits the planchets. So you always start from the top and going slowly down, down, down. You don't want to go too far. So of course you will have these trial strikes until you get to the perfect location where you will stop adjusting, and that would be it. In this case also it is a double error, because this one also has an indent on it. So it has a partial indent plus a trial strike error on that. Okay, now we're going into a very interesting area, and it's called wrong planchet or the wrong metal. So let's start with the one on the right side. By the way, this is a special collection of the Kennedys that are being struck on different sizes of planchets. So the one on the left side is really small, and it is the Kennedy was struck on a cent planchet. The one on the right side, the Kennedy was struck on a 5-cent planchet. So it's the wrong metal, maybe, depends on what. The wrong metal for the cent, and on the 5-cent, but it's not wrong on maybe on the dime and maybe on the quarter, because that's the same metal. But again, wrong planchet. It was supposed to be struck on a Kennedy or a 50-cent planchet. Okay, the one on the left is very rare. Is one of the rarer pieces, because the smaller the planchet it is, I think the better or the more expensive the coin is. Okay, the one on the left, it's even smaller. It's on a 10-cent planchet. It is the right metal, but wrong planchet. The one on a 25-cent, it's still smaller, right planchet, right, the right metal. And this one is the Kennedy on a Susan B. Anthony planchet. That's the right metal, right? Right. Now, because I had, I've shown you the Kennedys, you can see something else there. First of all, there's another Kennedy that's struck on a Taiwanese planchet, which is a little smaller than the Kennedy. So, and the one on the left, actually, it is an Ike struck on a Kennedy planchet. So let's put it all together and see how could it be that this thing can happen. Let's first of all let's do, well, I think we'll talk about it later. We have a bin that is filled with planchets at the bin. Okay, you're using all the planchets in there, but there's a few planchets that kind of hide in the bin after the complete use of it. Now, you take this bin and you fill it up with different size planchet. And when you pour it in, the whole thing is shaking, and those hiding planchets dislodge themselves, and now they're mixed with the new planchets. And voila, wrong planchets are struck, because those planchets, if they are the right size, okay, they will get struck. And what is the right size? The rule is, remember the rule, it's always the bigger coin struck on the smaller planchet. So in the case of the Kennedy, you can strike on a lot of coins. You can strike it on a cent. You can strike it on a 5-cent. You can strike on a 10-cent, a quarter, and also a Susan Anthony. You say, wait a minute, it's $1. Yes, but we're talking about the size. It cannot be struck on an Ike dollar because it's big, but the Susan Anthony is smaller, actually, from the $half. So, and here's a picture I took from the book from the Error Coin Encyclopedia. You can see how some of the coins are stuck on the side of the bin. That's an old picture, but I think now the bins are a little different, but they somehow are getting stuck in there. Okay, here's the rule. wrong planchet, wrong metal. The rule is that only the larger coin can be struck on the smaller planchet. So again, as I explained before, I'll give you the examples. Let's move back. Oh, what do we have here? What did we say? We can't have a smaller coin struck on the bigger coin, right? But let's look again and see what happened over here. Okay, looks the depression is on the reverse. It could be there was just a small planchet that somehow fell and sat right there, and it got impressed into the bottom of the big planchet of the Ike that was just sitting on it. So it does not go against our rule. It was just a debris, if you can call it a debris, that was just sitting on the lower die. Okay, here's some more varieties, and it's called the overdates. The famous 1941/2. Again, it's something that was done at the time of the die making and not at the time of the coin making. Sometimes what will happen is the mint will try to save money, so they will take one die and just grind or try to repair the date or whatever, but after a while you can see what can happen. But it's great for us. Hey, let them do it. We love these kind of things. And here's some different things that can happen when you have clash die. What is a clash die? A clash die is when the top die hits the bottom die when there's nothing in between. Nothing, no planchet filled the hole. So the two dies hit each other. So the bottom die will get some impression from the top die, and vice versa. The top die will impress the bottom die. And what happened in this case, because of the top or the bottom hit the top, this area created some teeth in there, and that's what we call the Bugs Bunny effect for this 1955 Franklin $50. And here's another famous, or two famous over-polished dies. The three-legged buffalo, an overzealous employee that was polishing the bottom of that reverse die. Actually, in this case, it's not the reverse. This is one of the coins that actually were struck the opposite because of the design. So the reverse of this coin actually was the obverse. So the top die had the design of the bottom. And in the 1922 case, the D, it was actually a Denver edition. Also, you can't see anything, so it's just almost like a 22 plane, which is Philadelphia, which was not. It is a Denver edition there. Here's again the railroad wheel edge. You can see it a little closer. So the bottom part is the one that was actually in the collar, and the part just above it, you can see it's kind of going over, that was outside of the collar. Therefore, the metal could spread a little more. Here's a very interesting error. It's called, the one on the left is called a clam shell. You can see again, if you remember when I said before, sometimes because of improper mixing of the metal, Sometimes it will just not adhere, it will not stick together, and will open up or miss or shear completely off. In this case, it opens, and it's being collected avidly. People love that. On the right side, you can see that the split, the clamshell either split completely or something to that effect. You can still see the Lincoln um, um, kind of a shadow you can see on that, but it's probably um, on the other side you have that design, and this part just completely sheared off. So you're basically looking on the middle of the coin, which the other side has the design of Lincoln head there. Okay, something you don't see too many times. This is one of the things that I don't have. I just copied that. It's called a mule. What's a mule? You can see on the same coin two different denominations. So in this case, it could be, it probably was $1 that that was combined with a different die. So this is an accident that happened, and we know that in 2000 the mint accidentally struck that the $1. It's a 2000 date, and they made probably a few dozens before they caught it. Because, and how does that happen? Well, the two dies are kind of close in size, and an employee that probably just half asleep or whatever grabbed the wrong one and installed it without looking, and now lo and behold, we got a great error to collect. Okay, this is also not mine. I just took these pictures from, I went to, I think it was one of the Central States show. I went to Fred Weinberg's table, and he had a few of those. This is an amazing stuff that I don't know how it got out of the mint. So it still can happen that it was transferred into the bag, and when they went to count or whatever, somebody found it outside of the mint. But you can see two different denominations. The left is just probably like 20, 30 or more coins together. They instead of exiting when they were hit the first time, they somehow got stuck and hit, and more and more and more. And I don't know how it didn't even break the press in that area. It was a giant chunk, but it's amazing the size and the look of it is amazing. And those probably went for tens of thousands of dollars, I'm almost sure. Okay, something that not too many people are looking for, but it does exist, and it's called rotated reverse. The one on the left, you can see just about 25 degrees counterclockwise going that way. So that means if you flip it around, the other side will be probably upside down, but it will be just if it's in this position, the picture will be just perfect. Now the one on the right side is 170 degrees. So if you flip that, it almost going to be the same alignment as the front. Okay, so because our coins are coined as an opposite alignment, meaning the 180 degrees difference. But in this case, it probably will be just about the same size if you flip it sideways. Something that's called die cracks. Die cracks happen when the mint is using the dies a little too long. Maybe they're trying to stretch the and save some money. It's called metal fatigue. The die will start showing cracks. This is crack, looks like going from side to side. Sometimes you have partial, sometimes you have in specific areas where the ray is designed, etc., etc. But it's something that happens a lot. Mostly, you will see it. I don't know. I would tend to say you will see it more in the older denominations or the older, older years of striking. Okay, something is called misaligned dies, and they gave the acronym MAD. You can see that the obverse here is almost like an off-center strike, right? But guess what? The other side is not the same like that. It is perfectly centered. That means they misaligned the obverse die, and it went sideways. Well, of course, it can be just the opposite. The die on the back could be misaligned. So you'll have a reverse misaligned die. Something that are called fragments. If you look real closely, you'll see the head or part of the head of 5 cent was on there. And it looks like, see how a size, yeah, it's just about 20%, 15%. But yeah, it still happens. Something is called foldover. Almost looks like a clipped coin, but if you look beyond the head, kind of going down to the left, this is where the fold occurred. You can see the raised area near the Liberty area that says. That is not a common coin. Something called sintered coins. You can see how dark they are. That is because of improper annealing. The annealing process is in the beginning when you put those planchets into that special solution. And sometimes if you don't rinse it correctly, you send it back to the annealing furnace. All this is the residual fine metal that is baked onto the surface, and it looks like it looks awful, like the one on the left. You think, what happened to this one? Actually, it's a new coin, never used, uncirculated, but it is what it is. People collect those too. And by the way, when I worked at that dealership, we used to have all these state quotas coming in, and the one on the right side could have been one that we found in rolls. So sometimes those will, just because how are the rolls made? They're being, the big bag is being sent, let's say, to Brinks or one of those kind of entities, and they will put them in rolls or in bags or whatever, and they don't, machine is doing it, so they don't see the different color ones, and if they see, they suppose, well, by law, from what I understand, all these companies that are working for the mint, in that case, they're rolling rolls or putting in bags and then ship them to the banks. If they find any of these error coins, by law, they're supposed to return it to the mint. But guess what? I think they maybe a small part of it goes back to the mint, and again, I cannot say for sure, but I'm sure that there's some side business is being done with some employees. And again, I can't say it for sure, but hey, this is has to be one way of all these coins that are coming out into the market, and they're leaving somehow the mint. Okay, in 2003, the mint that before they, when they were catching all the error coins, they would ship it back to be melted. But there were a lot of those escaping, meaning, you know, like funny business was happening and people were drivers or whatever, they were taking those and selling them, etc., etc. So the mint decided, we're going to try to do something different. So all these coins, all these error coins that they find, now they let them go through special a special roller. It's called the waffler. It's just those big rolls that just roll over the planchets, or not the planchets, but the actual coins, and just leave all these marks on them. But guess what? They try to deface these. They became an instant new area of collection for us. You know for sure it's an error coin, but now it's an error waffled coin. So it's not that they just rolled just any coin, those are error coins. So people love collect them in the different dates and the different denominations. Okay, very interesting. This is called the dual denomination. I call it the 11-cent coin. You can see you have a 1-cent coin, and there is a 10-cent coin too. Again, how is this happened? Remember the same story with those planchets that are hiding into those crevices of the bins? In this case, they were not just planchets. They were some of those finished coins that were hiding in those little crevices. And when they were dislodged and a new denomination was struck over them, it was a denomination over another denomination. That is what happened here. And those are not a cheap one, especially in the high grade. This is a 66. Something like this can bring up to close to $1,000 each. Another famous error that until today nobody knows for sure, because everybody is saying something else and nobody is really saying for sure. But in 2004, when the Wisconsin state quota was made, suddenly a new variety appeared. Actually, two new varieties. It was the D that was made in Denver. It's something called the high leaf, which is the one on, you can see the picture on the right side, the arrow shows, and the low leaf, which is on the left side, it goes down. By the way, the low leaf is the more expensive one. And again, nobody has a clear answer. What happened? People say, well, it could have been one of the engravers did it, etc., etc. The story goes that somebody discovered that when the presses were rolling, he stopped the machine and tell them, do not restart it, and they went to lunch. When they came back, the machines were still rolling. Somebody turned it on again, and it was just going and going and going. A lot of those ended up, I think, somewhere in Arizona, maybe. And oh boy, there was a frenzy, and they were bringing a lot of money. They still do, not as much as before, but they're still popular. Okay, the 1943 copper cents. Okay, we all remember that in 1943, because the US needed the copper, they changed it for just 1 year. They made it they removed the copper and they had it in steel. But again, same story appears and coming back. Remember those small planchets that are stuck somewhere in those little crevices of those bins. Again, some of these from previous year, 1942, stuck, and in 1943, guess what? It was the same denomination, luckily, and quite a few of them were struck. And those today bring so much money because I'm not sure how many are known, but not too many, probably a dozen or in that area. Um, but again, the same thing occurred in 1944. 1944, they switched back to copper coins, but there's some 1944 made out of steel planchets. Same thing. Okay, here's another variety that is specifically for silver dollars. This book was written by Leroy Van Allen and George Mellis. And if you take their initials, L, V, and M, no, I mean, the Van Allen is the VA, VAM. So, and then you put an S because it's a plural. Very, very popular series to collect. There's a lot of them that they are different varieties, different dyes, because of course, you have so many dyes on a run for these years, and and a combination of those produced amazing, if you can call it, errors, and people are paying tons of money for specific ones because they're very rare. And here's that book that I mentioned before. That book I would suggest, it's still, if you can still get it, it's the Error Coin Encyclopedia written by Arnold Margolis and Fred Weinberg. And on the left, you can see the Bill Fiva and Rick Schemmer that wrote on my book, and it's really autographed my book. That's a very nice. I'll treasure that. But yeah, this book tells you about everything that are out there. Very written in a very easy to read book and explained very well. Also, there are some cherry pickers guide books that also was made by Bill Fiva and J.T. Stanton. They have different ones for different denominations, different coins. Also very good. I think they might have like 5 different ones now or something like that. Let's go and talk a little bit about the grading. How do you grade these coins? The grading is done only on remember, the struck part of the coin. So sometimes, the unstruck coin it looks really kind of bad, scratches and stuff like that because of it is what it is. But the grading is being done only on the part that was struck by the die. So one interesting thing is that there are a lot of coin dealers out there that they're avoiding to put a grade on their coin, because some of them don't really know how to really grade those things, and so that's what nice that you have um, the third party grader company that would do that. Of course, if you have a specific error coin dealer, they will put grading because they know their coins. But it's the other regular or non-error coins that a dealer that has some of them here and there, and they are not as astute, and so they just don't, they just try to avoid the grading on those. And this is the end. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll take some questions.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to launch the poll really quick, and then we'll start the questions.
Thank you.
So, let's see here. So you got some at the beginning here, so I'll just start at the beginning. During the minting process, how would the planchet or placement of the mint mark be applied to the planchet?
Okay, the mint mark is always done at the time of the die making. Okay, the die, you have a master die, let's put it this way, that does not have the mint mark. But of course, it depends when. Nowadays, the Philadelphia Mint does put their P on coins, but a long time before that, they did not. So whenever you did not have any letter on a coin, you assumed it is Philadelphia. But the D and the S are being done at the time of the die making, not at the coin strike time.
Says, my question pertains to CUD errors. What is the percentage of coins produced at the minting facility produce this type of error, and how many of the errors do they make into circulation?
Well, this is one thing that you do not really know, okay? It's not just like a regular coin that you have information, okay, we made 10 million of that, 9.5 million of that. Those things do happen, but you don't really have numbers on them. The people that really might know are the actual, let's say, the dealers that exclusively are dealing with error coins. They would see what is out there because they're selling it basically, so they will know how many of this or that exists. A CAD coin, you have different CADs, by the way. The CAD that I showed on my coin is a CAD that is on the side or the edge of the coin. Those mostly happen because, again, metal fatigue. It's almost like when you have those die cracks. Die cracks is only a crack, but the CAD is actually a die break. A part of the die does break, and there are different coins that you can see, some with small areas or so small, not depression, but raised areas on the coin itself. And those are also CADs, but those are like small fragments that are breaking off the main surface of the die, and those are surface CADs. To me, and again, I don't want to perceive myself as an expert. I think an expert is somebody that exclusively deals with a specific, let's say a coin dealer that specifically deals with errors. They might be an expert. I know enough, but I don't want to prance around saying I'm an expert. But I would say the CUDs are not very common, okay? So because you don't see too many of them. You see probably more in the older coins, because maybe the quality control was not as good as today's. By the way, one thing to add is when the mint is striking the coins, periodically they will check the bin where the finished coins are going into. They'll take, they'll scoop one scoop with their hand and will inspect what they have in their hand. According to what I know, what they say, if they find 2 or 3 or more of those, more than 2 or 3, they will condemn the whole bin because they are so so strict, and they say that they are very, very strict. They do not want error coins to go out. But lucky for us, those error coins still being produced and still going out for us. So that's why we still can collect. But that's one thing they do periodically when they finish, or maybe while it's being filled, they will inspect to see if there are some errors in there, and we'll go from there.
What is the most expensive and cheapest error coins?
Well, the cheapest will probably those clips or the off centers. Those you can get for a few dollars. The most expensive, well, let me look real quick here. I have a book that was written by Mike Byers. Mike Byers has out of this world coins. And some of his coins, I looked here, and he has like $1 million coin here and there. Again, what is a price? A price is what somebody is going to pay you. You say it's $1 billion, you might sell it, or you may sit on it 1,000,000 years. Okay, if somebody offers you 1,000 on that 1 million, that is the price. Same thing here. If you say, what is the most expensive coin? And I say, Mike Byers has a coin for 1.5 million. That's what he wants to get it. But is this the price or is it not? Go from there. But, there are some error coins that are really spectacular. And they will go from thousands of dollars to, again, like those chunks. Remember those chunks of coins that left the mint? Those at the time when I saw it, maybe about 10 years ago or so, and I took those pictures off, with his permission, with Weinberg's permission. He said, I think he's going to be selling them for maybe 20 to 30,000 each. So that tells you the rarer it is. It could be that the price will be there, but again, how popular it is, how desperately you want to have this coin, and how much money you have to spend. So all these factors will come together to create the price.
All right, so this one's a little bit of a long one, and it pertains to the 1974 aluminum Lincoln cent. As of now, have there been any of these coins found in circulation? Have there been any coinage that have been found in the other type of coinage that have been produced by the mint? Also, would these coins be classified as off-metal errors?
Okay, from what I understand, and I don't have one of those, I think there's only maybe one or maybe two, and I cannot remember how they were discovered, but I think the mint was experimenting with that, and they maybe gave it to some representatives, like Congress people or senators or one of those, and again, the rule is when you get one of those, you have to return it to the mint. But some of those find their way to their pockets and they stay there. The story on that, if I can remember, is that possibly somebody kept it. I don't think they were ever in circulation. Rumors are rumors. There's always rumors, but I don't think that those were in circulation. So you would not find one of those in circulation. But again, there's always the ordinary and the out of the ordinary. You know how you sometimes find crazy coins in circulation, and it's like somebody got into their parents' or grandparents' collections and they went and spent those coins. That can happen. So anything is possible, that you can find something in circulation that is not supposed to be there. And I'm not sure, there was another part to that question.
It said also, would these coins be classified as off-metal errors?
Well, it's not, it will not be off metal, because they made them as a possibility to put in circulation, because at the time aluminum was cheap. But guess what? What happens sometimes is you use a specific alloy or specific metal, and suddenly everything changes. You know, it's very cheap when you start, but then suddenly, because of the use, the price goes up. A good examples are, let's say, platinum and palladium. Palladium for a long time was, not really that expensive, but then what happened? The car industry changed the alloy in our catalytic converters from platinum, which was really, it went up in price. They say, let's use palladium. Well, guess what? At the time, maybe 10 some years ago, or something like that, palladium was about $200. Today, it's $2,300 per ounce. That's crazy. So that's sometimes what happens to metals, that at the time, the price is low, but then when you start to use it in some applications, the price just goes all the way up. Vice versa, it could go just the opposite. Now look at the prices of platinum. Platinum was very high. It was higher, a lot higher than, always was higher than gold. And now it's very, very low. Well, relatively speaking, gold is about 1900, and platinum, I think it's, I don't know, I didn't check it lately, but it's about 1,000 or so. So that's it.
Do you know any good error coin shops online?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Do you know any good error coin shops online?
Let me see. I think I have something here. Coins. Okay, error coins. Okay, you have those dealers that have their own. So it's I'll just read it to you, and you can just think about the thing. It's fredweinberg.com. That's the famous dealer that used, or mikebuyers.com. Mint, and those are one word, by the way. Mint errornews.com. Coneca line, CONECAONLINE.org. That's Coneca is the organization, the top organization here in the US for errors. Let's see, what else? Another one is varietyvista.com. Oh, by the way, conecaline.org. And another one is error-ref.com. I wrote myself those on the side, and kind of helped me sometime to go to those places. But I'm sure if you go to some of those, you'll see some advertisements for others, but or you can just ask Google, for those, and maybe they'll share it with you.
If you haven't finished the survey yet, please do so. And this is being recorded, so we will put it on our website in the next week or so. Let's see here. Somebody said, you said that the mules are the most expensive coins. What is the second place?
The mules?
That's what it is. Yeah, the mules.
Well, I did not necessarily say they're the most, but they're fairly expensive. I don't think they're the most. There are so many different ones that could be, you can say, close to unique. And again, we don't know if it is unique or not. Again, we do not have, it's not numbers as coins or paper money that you have records of those. These are things that happen to actual coins because of an error, a mistake, or this or that, and you don't really know, unless it's something fairly common, you don't really know how many you have. But the real rare ones, if you don't see them out, you say, wow, those I don't see very often. So you know that they are rare, highly scarce, or some you say, oh, this one I never seen, and those are the experts. This is something new I never seen. And then they have to go and figure out how did this error happen. Because again, another thing to consider is counterfeits. We didn't talk about that. The point was that whenever the first coin was minted, guess what? The first counterfeiter appeared. So whatever is out there, people will try to counterfeit it. So you really have to know the process, how coins are being made, to see how feasible is that this coin could have happened, or the error, how could that error really happen? Because people can do all kind of things. They will hammer two coins together, so you see a different design, or maybe off in this or that, or they will clip a coin. And sometimes if you don't have, let's say, the Lexley effect, which not always there, but this will kind of weed out a few of the counterfeits, etc. So you do need to know your stuff, especially when the coin can cost a lot of money, and guess what? You're stuck with a counterfeit. So you really need to know a little more about those coins before diving and buying. Well, if you buy a slabbed coin, most likely those experts do know their thing, and they determine it's not. But of course, that's not foolproof. We heard about stories that later on, quite a few coins were turned back, and actually the grading company had to pay back because it was a counterfeit. We had some question, not necessarily in the error department, but other coins that were counterfeits, high-powered coins that later were found to be counterfeit. That happens, so be careful out there.
How many more questions would you like to do?
What's that?
How many more questions would you like to do?
As many as you have. I have the time, if you have the time.
Okay. Let's see here.
I'll just get them. Just 1 second, I'll tell you sweet.
No worries. Does a struck-through error command a higher value or lower value as the coin has been altered?
Say it again.
Does a struck-through error command a higher value or lower value as the coin was altered?
Well, it's not an altered coin. Okay, again, as I said, if it does happen in the mint, it is a legitimate coin. So again, it depends on what it was struck through. Here's another thing. Let's say it was struck through a screw, but the screw is still in the coin. That will bring tons of money because it's actually the proof what it was struck through. Another one, the screw fell out, but you still have that impression of the screw. That's also a kind of a neat coin. But again, the more spectacular the coin is, the more money. And of course, it's how desirable the coin is, and you have to have some kind of like people have to have it, and they have to have the money. So in an auction, let's say there's a spectacular coin, and you have 5 people that have to have it, and they have so much money they don't know what to do with it. Guess what's going to happen? the price will go up the sky. Again, the price is what somebody else will pay. That's what it is. So price-wise, I can't really say. I'm not into prices. The prices are being determined mostly by dealers. They hype specific coin or specific line of coins. I don't know, but they kind of determine the prices. But in a show, you can bargain on those. You can show some knowledge about it. Talk to the dealer, befriend the dealer. You'll find out that the nicer you are, sometimes you can drop off quite a bit of a specific coin. Depends on, let's say, how many of something similar that dealer has. Let's say he has 3 of the same kind and they're kind of high power one. He will want to get rid of some. He might give you a deal. You never know, but be nice. Always be nice to a dealer, and don't make like snotty remarks about this or that, because you never know. Some dealers had a bad day, and don't do that. So be nice. Be nice.
Is a cent struck into an Ike a strike through?
Well, again, a cent cannot be struck into an Ike. Remember the picture I showed you? It could be a cent, but it's only a planchet that somehow fell into the hole, and it sat on the bottom die. And when the Ike planchet came into place, okay, that planchet was impressed. Well, the top die hit the planchet, so it pressed the bottom onto that planchet. So it's not really that the planchet was struck on the coin. The coin was struck on the planchet in a way, kind of thing. So it's not really a strike. Well, you could call it a strike through. Technically, but it's not really the same as, because remember the rule. The rule is the bigger coin is struck on the small one, but technically you can say, wait a minute, the bigger coin, but it's not the bigger, it's the larger planchet was struck on the little one, but the little one was just sitting there. It wasn't really struck as onto. You could say, okay, that planchet could have been struck as is without anything on top of it. That would have been an off metal or off, this kind of the original thing, that the larger design was struck on the smaller thing. But in this case, it was not the case. The one I showed you was not that case.
All right, it says, my question is fragments. Would it be possible for a fragment to be developed from the webbing of the punched out blank?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, my question is fragments. Would it be possible for a fragment to be developed from the webbing of the punched out blank?
Yeah, well, fragments might be just, if you look, and let me go and see if we can get back to, we can't get back to our, can I get back to my...
You should be able to push like the left arrow. Or you can hit escape and you can get back to your PowerPoint that way too.
I can't do anything, it just froze. Let me see. There we go. Okay, let's go to that webbing. Okay, you can see piece here. Let's say the corner of the left side, that little piece that goes up, it just sheared off. That's a fragment. Fragment is basically, as its name, it's a small piece that shears off something else. In this case, I've seen some dealers buying one of those, and they clip them themselves. They clip a small part of it. Let's say they go look on the left side. They take cutters and they would go through the middle of the 2 or 3 holes, and then they would cut each one into a small, like a T, like a fragment. And they'll sell them like this for a few bucks, But in actuality, those kind of fragments do get created in the environment when you just strike these big rolls of metal. Stuff will come off, and again, like, remember that other fragment that we had here. Where is it? Oh, did I pass it? Here we go. This fragment. That's actually, okay. That could have been, in this case, this was a lamination that sheared off the actual 5 cent, the nickel, and then as a fragment, it was struck that way, or it could have sheared off completely as a finished coin, and it just peeled off due to improper mixing of the alloys or the metals in it. Anything can happen. So but yeah, fragments as they are, unless they are being struck on, they command just a few bucks, because again, as I said, people can get those webbing and just chop a small piece and they'll sell it separately. So there's nothing there.
Can't a blank or a planchet be graded even though they were never struck?
Remember what we said. The grading is only on the struck part of the coin. So if they were never struck, they will not be graded.
Is there a reliable publication or subscription that determines the values of error coins?
Well, you can actually go to the Red Book has a section, but again, it is in general. They just take the families of error coins and they say, okay, this one can cause this and this and that. The only place that you can actually see specific coin, specific values, there's no catalogs, I think, for that. You would have to go to somebody's like dealer's inventory, and they'll tell you how much they'll sell this or that. So you can kind of compare what you have and see what they sell. Of course, the same thing. Their prices may be a little high or a little low, but you have a general idea what those prices will be. But to my knowledge, I don't think there is like a catalog for that. I may be mistaken, but again, I kind of, the last few years, I did not, I wasn't as involved in buying new errors. I have so many right now. I do have, just like this, I do go to clubs and do these presentations, but I'm not as active as I used to be with the errors. It's so different with me. Every time I go to the ANA seminar, guess what? I take another class and I get involved in a different area, and I'm always poor because I start collecting a different area, and I've been there for more 6, 7, 8 times. So every time I go, I collect something else. So It's not easy. Not easy.
All right, let's do 2 more questions if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Okay. When the "In God We Trust" is pressed into the room of the link consent, would this be an overstrike or an alignment issue?
When what?
When the "In God We Trust" is pressed into the die rim on a link consent, would this be
in the what? In the die what?
the in God We Trust pressed
Yes.
into the rim?
Oh, in the rim. Okay. Well, again, I have to look at it. What's in the rim? Is it? But okay, if that happens, the question is, where is the bottom of the design? Is it up? Is it? Well, think about it. If the coin is a little off center, okay, the "In God We Trust" is on top. That means if it's inside the rim, then you'll have maybe you might say off center, just what, 90. No, in this case it's just the opposite, so it's like 1 or 2% because it doesn't have much to go there. But if it's not, sometimes what happens is the die is so old, the design, well, not necessarily the die, but the master die, let's put it this way. The master die is the one that keeps making more and more and more dies. So the original one was made in 1909, let's say, right? Now, if we are now in 1950 or 1960, how many times this die struck more and more and more dies, the design somehow becomes a little spread, so the picture kind of migrates more to the edges. That's why not I don't know, they kind of redesigned the whole design probably in the 2000 or so, because the design was not the same. It was just moving to the side. That's one possibility, that because of that spread, the "In God We Trust" is pushed maybe to the rim or to the edge. When you say the rim, you say the edge or on the side of the coin? Which rim are we talking about? Is where the on a coin that has reeds, is that what you're talking about? Or because Xen does not have reeds, it's a flat edge. So edge or rim, which one are we talking about? Rim, I would say it's the end of the coin, or it's on the face of the coin. Some people just sometimes mix the terms. I had a question one time, they meant the edge and it was the rim, or vice versa. So I presume it is the rim, and that's my theory. But I have to look at it to really comment. I can only guess in these cases. Without looking at it, really hard to comment.
All right, last question. At what point in degrees of rotation do rotated reverse coins become collectible?
Well, it's one of those things that I think not very popular, because people, it's the same like this. Some error collectors will collect only double dies or those kind of things, but they will not really collect the actual error coins. So this might be the same thing, is just a part of the business, or part of the error collecting coins that somebody is concentrating on. With me, I don't collect the DDRs and this and this and that. I actually collect actual error coins, obvious things. To me, those are more varieties, like, you know, double dies, meaning like the 55. Although those are the very popular thing, you know, those are at one time I just called them error coins because they were so popular, not like the DDRs, but, well, I shouldn't say that. For some people, it's like, what are you talking about? This is what I collect, so I can't say that. But again, it is what people collect, and you probably don't have too many people collecting this variety. So sometimes those will not really bring as much money. It all depends, again, how popular a specific area is, and that sometimes determines the price of those coins.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dany, for your time today. We didn't get to all of the questions. Do you have an email or way somebody can contact you if they have follow-up questions? If not, I can give my email.
Yeah, they can. You probably have it. It's the drothfeld@hotmail.com. They can send me that. Again, I stress again, I am not the expert. I know a lot about it. I can, you know, guess. I can have a theory on specific errors, but the people that are, you know, like Fred Weinberg, he is an expert. People that really deal with it every day, all year, those are the experts, and I cannot put that feather in my hat. But I'm always eager to help people if I can. So if you have a question, I'll be glad to try to give you an answer. And again, if you buy that book that I suggested, you might probably find it on eBay. It's a very, very good book. I really, really recommend. It's the Error Coin Encyclopedia. This one I have is the 4th edition. The 4th edition is from what year? 2004. So that's a lot of years since. I am sure that they made more editions since, but you can try eBay. Sometimes you can buy those on eBay, but boy, oh boy, it has everything on it. So it will answer all your questions, unless it's something new that is not in the book yet. I don't know. That is very possible. Anything is possible with coins. That can happen. And because they use sometimes new equipment, and there's many opportunities to create error coins, which we may not know about, but it is what it is. So good luck.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dany, so much for this. We really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody staying on to the end. We will have more presentations next month as well, and this was recorded and we'll put it on our website if you missed any of it.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. See you soon.
Yeah, thanks for all the good stuff you're doing. You and
Of course.